hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous.
Well, credit to him, all this other stuff. And it took some politics to keep Davis as champion. You ever see guys getting to referee their own fight?
Gervonta Tank Davis is one of the most overrated fighters in the sport of boxing right now. And not because of his skills, but because of his resume. And resume does matter.
Joe Rogan criticizes Gervonta Davis, calling him overrated and questioning his past performances. He argues that real champions don't back down during tough moments and always show their strength in the ring. Rogan believes Davis hasn't been tested by real challenges and that his reputation is inflated.
Everybody saw it. You can't get around what everybody saw. Look, it wasn't a legit knockdown like he hurt Tank. Tank did have some in his eyes, but what are you doing putting in your hair when you have a world title fight? That's crazy.
And no one want to hear about it in the middle of a fight. That no one cares. If a fly by, drop the ball, bro.
Right.
Drop the damn ball. We don't care if a fly flew by your helmet or your eyes.
Yeah, nobody gives a fuck
about
that.
You can't be a championship fighter and taking a knee and putting on those type of performances.
Also, what are they putting in his hair? That when he's sweating, it is dripping into his eyes. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Bro, shave your head.
Weird, right? Yeah, exactly.
Shave your head. Who cares?
Like, don't be pretty boy. You better go get this fight.
Get those braids out of there. Yeah. You don't need those.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking guy. He doesn't need all that crazy braids and shit.
Yeah.
A major criticism of Gervonta Davis is the level of his opponents. Many boxing experts believe his team handpicks fighters who pose little threat, ensuring that Davis is always in a favorable position.
Shakur Stevenson would beat him in a close decision, and it would end up probably being a boring fight. But I think Shakur has the skills to beat Tank Davis over a long 12-round fight. Now we have Subriel Matias, who's a scary Terminator-like fighter who gives up the early rounds to come on later and drown you in those later rounds. But he's very stiff and he doesn't have very good footwork at all. I think Tank Davis will probably, box his face off for most of the 12 rounds. There might be some trouble in the late rounds. But if Tank can stay out of trouble, I think this is one of the few champions that he would beat, but I don't think he would fight him. Now we have Pitbull Cruz, who Tank already beat by a close decision, and Tank beat him with a broken hand.
Gervonta Davis has been criticized for avoiding top-tier opponents, with many questioning if he's really being tested at the highest level. A key example is his refusal to fight Shakur Stevenson, a talented and dangerous boxer. Fans have been calling for this fight for years, but Davis hasn't taken the challenge, leading to accusations that he's dodging real competition.
Pitbull Cruz only had 2 weeks to prepare for this fight. I think in the rematch, Tank would take a lot more punishment and even has the potential of being beat. If Tank's not perfect for those 12 rounds, I think Pitbull Cruz wins because he's been looking a lot better since their fight and has impressed me very, very much. Now we got Devin Haney. Devin Haney is very impressive. He really has everything. He has the defensive skills, the offensive skills. He's really showing his power and strength at 140 pounds. And even though Tank has the power, right, the only guy to really give Haney trouble is a guy like Lomachenko, a southpaw with really good footwork and boxing skills. Tank Davis is not Lomachenko. So I think Devin Haney beats Gervonta Tank Davis pretty soundly and pretty easily, as long as he doesn't get caught with something crazy. Now we have Teofimo Lopez, the first guy to really beat Lomachenko and look very impressive doing it. Not only has he beat Lomachenko, but he also beat Josh Taylor, the former unified champion. Both very impressive victories, and even though he's been kind of inconsistent and doesn't fight as good when he fights lesser opponents, I think he has all the skills he needs to beat Tank Davis. He has the speed, athleticism, the counters, the blocks, everything you would need to beat Tank, right? So I have Teofimo above Tank as well. If Tank wants to be great, he's going to have to fight one of these guys. And Frank Martin isn't really going to do much for his stock. He's got to beat another champion.
Davis has often been accused of picking easy fights to protect his undefeated record. These claims grew stronger after his fight with Lamont Roach Jr., where many felt Davis's weaknesses were exposed. The match ended in a majority draw, and Roach's impressive toughness and skill made fans question the story about Davis's dominance. Critics argue that if Davis were truly an elite fighter, he would have easily beaten Roach instead of struggling to secure a clear win.
That fight with Tank and Lamont Roach, shows y'all how protected Tank has been for the past several years. And the people saying, oh, Tank know Lamont and he been respected Lamont because they fought in the amateurs. Man, he was cherry picking Lamont, you know, and really thought he was gonna get that win. But Lamont wasn't coming to play around. You know, he stood his ground and fought back. And to be honest, he won the fight. The rematch is gonna be a knockout.
Boxing analyst Smith strongly criticized Davis for choosing to fight Lamont Roach, who is smaller and lighter. He argued that if Davis really is as talented as people say, he should have easily dominated someone like Roach. Instead, Davis barely managed to get through their first fight, which led Smith to conclude that Davis is overrated. He pointed out that if Davis struggles against Roach, it's hard to imagine how he would perform against top-level fighters.
Gervonta's a smart dude, bro, and he said you really should have waited.
No, you should have waited. You should have waited for a little bit more time. You stuck your head out there a little too soon.
And he was right. He was absolutely positively right. And so now here we are, him fighting this cat Roach, and I'm like, isn't this dude a like junior lightweight?
Super featherweight, moving up to lightweight. Yeah.
No, that bothers me. And the reason why that bothers me is because Gervonta is too great and too skilled to be fighting dudes smaller than him. Gervonta Davis can knock out welterweights. He probably could knock out a couple of middleweights. Why are you fighting somebody smaller? Only time I approve great champions fighting smaller guys is when you're not known for your power. You're basically using your superior skill set and showing against a smaller, quicker guy that skills don't dissipate.
In boxing, the term prize fighter is used for those who focus more on making money than on building a lasting legacy. Some critics argue that Davis embodies this mindset, choosing big paydays over fighting top opponents to build a legendary career. By taking safer fights, Davis secures financial success but loses credibility with hardcore boxing fans. Critics believe this approach harms the sport's competitive integrity and prevents real champions from rising.
I've been told y'all Gervonta Tank Davis isn't a prize fighter. I know a lot of you guys say, well, he doesn't fight for belts, he doesn't fight for legacy, he fights for money. He's a prize fighter, Jerry. And I'm going to assume a prize fighter is a guy who is solely making fights based off of cash reward. He'd rather fight a bum for $50 million than fight a guy who's experienced for $10 million. That is what a prize fighter would be. Actual definition, a professional boxer who competes in matches for money prizes. So let's take a look at it. Turki Al-Sheikh has declared he wants to make Tank versus Shakur. He says, my plan for Shakur is this fight. He's referring to Floyd Schofield, then William Zepeda, and then let's see if Tank wants to be in our show. Tank's not going to fight Shakur. He's not going to fight him in Saudi Arabia. So now that we've established Tank isn't a prize fighter, because if he was, his career resume would look a whole lot different, then we must ask, what is Tank's goal in boxing? I'll tell you right now, it's easy money. Tank is the type of guy, he'd rather fight, let's say, 4 Lamont Roaches for $20 million than fight 1 Shakur Stevenson for $80 million, which is fine. But I'm tired of people saying, oh, he's a prize fighter, that's why he's not taking these fights. He's not a prize fighter. The biggest money fights is Haney, Ryan, Teo, Shakur, and Loma. He's not even going to take half of those fights. So please, guys, all my Tank fans, all my guys who claim Tank is a prize fighter, that's why he's not fighting for the belts, please stop it. The guy's not a legacy fighter. He's not a prize fighter. He's just a guy who enjoys easy paydays. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Just stop misleading people with your comments.
Many people in the boxing world feel the sport has become more about politics than actual skill, with outcomes being influenced by outside factors. Fighters and fans have expressed concerns over unfair judging, biased promotions, and results that seem to favor marketable boxers over the most talented ones. This has sparked growing doubt about the fairness and legitimacy of championship titles.
You felt like boxing's pretty rigged overall.
Oh, yes, rigged, dude. I mean, so many politics, even with, MMA, man, there's so many politics. There's no more art anymore. It's just, let's get an influencer in there. I get it. It's like generating money because our attention span is so short. You look at clips now, it's like 7 seconds. I saw a dude slamming a lady the other day and they were like, oh my God, that dude is, I'm like, well, what the do? I'm just gonna pick somebody and slam them. You know, where's the whole video? And our attention span is just so small. So money talks, of course. Yeah, let's get an influencer in there who has no style, but it draws attention. It's just dumb to me.
Joe Rogan has also addressed the issue of corruption in boxing. He argues that while boxing is an amazing sport, it loses its appeal when outcomes are manipulated. Rogan believes that behind-the-scenes agreements often determine the results of fights before they even happen, which undermines true competition. His comments echo the growing concern that modern boxing is more focused on business deals than on fair, competitive matchups.
People always say like boxing is a very effective martial art. Sure, if we make an agreement that I'm not going to pick you up and throw you on the ground, or if we make an agreement I'm not going to kick your legs out from under you. There's a great video of this Russian guy fighting this boxer, and it's a boxing versus Muay Thai fight, and it's hilarious to watch because the guy comes in trying to box and he's just getting his legs destroyed. He never gets a chance to set his feet, and then he gets head kicked and then chopped out, and then this is the end of it. He's like eventually like, fuck that. Man, that guy's not walking for days, by the way.
Renowned boxing trainer Robert Garcia weighed in on a crucial moment in the Davis vs. Roach fight, specifically the 9th round when Davis took a knee. Garcia argued that referees should intervene when a fighter goes down without a valid reason, like a low blow. Since boxing rules don't allow fighters to call a timeout during a round, Garcia found Davis's decision controversial. He believes the referee should have handled the situation differently.
And should it have been a disqualification?
Look, it could have easily been a disqualification too, or a referee stops contest. Because look, there's no way a fighter could take a timeout and go get his, during the round. There's no way a fighter could say, okay, timeout, because he took a knee like a timeout kind of thing, and walk to his corner to wipe his face. That's fucking unheard of and never seen before. There's no way that's legal in boxing. It shouldn't have. When a fighter, we just seen it recently with Espinosa and Rubesis. Rubesis got hit with the right hand, and then he walks back and walks away, and the red right away wiped it up.
That happened with Lara versus Angulo.
Exactly. It's over. It's over. So Tank doing that, took a knee. It should have right away. The ref should have started, counting as a knockdown. But he still walks away to his corner. I'm actually, surprised that the ref didn't call it a knockdown because he's a really good ref.
Willis
Is a great ref, one of the best in boxing right now, and that was a big mistake. He should have counted as a knockdown. Like I told you, I wouldn't have been surprised if when he walked away, if he would have just waved it up, because that's walking away from the fight. Because of the odds, during the break, tell the corners to wipe it up. You can't do that when the fight's going on. There's no way, nothing. You can't do that when the fight's going on. You can't time out, take a knee, and walk away. There's just no way. But it is boxing, and a lot of things happen in boxing.
Joe Rogan also weighed in on the controversy surrounding the Davis vs. Roach fight, questioning whether the rules were being enforced fairly. He suggested that the way the fight was officiated felt more like a legal agreement than a true sporting event. Rogan's comments reflected the frustration of many fans who felt Davis received special treatment from the officials.
One permitted slap of their opponent. If the return strike results in a KO or TKO finish of their opponent, the match is declared a draw. If the return strike has any other result, the match result stands. That's crazy. So you can get KO'd, you get finished, they give you 2 minutes to come back, and if you could knock that guy out, then it's a draw.
They also haven't used the rule yet.
So you go knockout for knockout.
Boy, that rule looks like it's written by lawyers, doesn't it? Doesn't that rule look written by lawyers? So find out what's happening, because I think they were going to announce something today about Lamont Roach, Gervonta Davis decision on the knockdown.
Boxing commentator Showbiz the Adult was highly critical of Davis's performance. He noted that with an experienced trainer like Calvin Ford and ample preparation time, there was no excuse for Davis's underwhelming performance. Given the resources and training Davis had, Showbiz the Adult argued that he should have put on a much more dominant display.
Exactly. He's a champion. He got to defend his title. He like I said, they both was looking at each other. And then finally, after Tank will be the one to throw the first punch. He felt like he wanted to retain his title. Lamont Roach felt like he was just happy to be there and get the success. He wasn't trying to take the title. He wasn't trying to take the title. And I'm saying that even from the last round, just even the last round, the final 20, 30 seconds of the last round, he wasn't throwing no punches. He looked at him and got caught with a jab. You can't close the show with a guy like that, with a guy like Tank Davis like that. Now, if he'd have had a knockdown or something, like a real knockdown or something, you know, maybe he feeling, but you can't stop until the bell ends. You can't, even if you're being active and slipping and sliding and something, he just standing there looking at him. I don't know. I didn't understand that. I don't understand why fighters sit there and look at each other for a long time. Change the angle. Keep a rhythm in your waist. Snap a jab. Do a feint. Ain't no need of you standing there looking at no man for 20 seconds in a fight. That don't make sense. But so I think, like I say, Lamont Roach, he will be kicking himself in the ass that he didn't do more, but grateful that he did enough.
Coach Bernie also shared his opinion, saying that Davis didn't defend his title the way a true champion should. He pointed out that Lamont Roach fought with more urgency and determination, while Davis seemed content just making it through the rounds. This raised concerns about Davis's mindset and whether he really had the heart of a champion.
For me, Tank Davis fighting a minus 1600 as your main event odds is crazy to me, dude. That's crazy. That underdog lived up to the hype. He ended up, overperforming. Lamont Roach, credit to him, all this other stuff. And it took some politics to keep Davis as champion. You ever see guys getting the referee their own fight? Dude, anybody else takes that knee, you're getting counted, bro. The referee, actually, his instinct, if you watch that, the referee's instinct was to count. If you notice, Steve Willis started counting, and then he looked at the timekeeper outside the ring, wasn't counting, and he stopped counting. So you get to call your own timeout. Earlier in the fight, if you saw that shoulder barge that Tank did to Roach in the clinch, he didn't get a warning, but Roach's reaction got the warning. This is the politics we're dealing with. You keep doing this, you're looking at short-term money and long-term destruction of a sport.
Holly Malignaggi argued that Davis stayed champion more because of politics than his performance in the ring. He suggested that behind-the-scenes factors, rather than Davis's actual skill, helped keep him at the top. Many fans agreed, believing that Davis's promotional team carefully manages his career to maintain his undefeated record.
So the Tank Davis vs. Lamont Roach rematch is being targeted for June 21st in Las Vegas. Now, it's good that they're running it back without wasting any time, because Roach absolutely deserves a rematch. I mean, I thought he outboxed Tank the last time around. He came up a division as a gigantic 10-1 underdog, and he was the one on the front foot, landing his jab, the body shots, the combinations, throwing a lot more volume. I had it 7-5 Roach, and the no knockdown in round 9 was the reason it was a draw. If that knockdown was scored, that would have been a decision for Roach. But with all that being said, I do like Tank a lot more in the rematch. I thought he fought way too much on the back foot in the first fight, especially the first few rounds. He would land 1 or 2 punches per round, but as he started becoming the aggressor in the later rounds, he kept landing a lot more left hands and body shots. So Tank just needs to make this a dogfight, get into more exchanges, and that's where he'll land a lot more punches on Roach. When he's sitting on the back foot waiting for a counter, that's where Roach is comfortable and winning most of the rounds. So if Tank can fight the same way he did against Ryan Garcia, rounds 3 to 7, against Mario Barrios in the later rounds, or Frank Martin rounds 4 to 8, if he's the one on the front foot, then I do think he'll stop Roach in the rematch.
After his fight with Roach, many fans began to question whether Davis is as skilled as his reputation suggests. Seeing a lesser-known fighter challenge him so strongly made people wonder if Davis had been overhyped. If he struggled against Roach, how would he fare against top-tier competition? These doubts led to increasing skepticism about his true abilities.
We will never see that fight happen again. It just will not happen. Gervonta Tank Davis doesn't like hard fights. It's that simple. We've seen it over and over. He fought a Ryan Garcia drained. He fought a very inexperienced Rolly Romero. He will not fight Devin Haney. He will not fight Shakur. He will not fight Pitbull Cruz again. He will not fight Lamont Roach again. He will not fight Tefimo. He will not fight He will not fight those guys. That's just not who Tank is.
Many boxing fans and analysts believe that Davis will avoid a rematch with Lamont Roach, based on his history of sidestepping tough rematches, like not giving Ryan Garcia a second fight. Critics argue that Davis prefers to fight opponents he's confident he can beat, rather than risk another competitive challenge. This pattern only strengthens the idea that Davis has carefully managed to protect his undefeated record. That's it for today's video. Stay tuned for the next one.